Hello and welcome to the Drug Trip, and thank you for clicking on this video. The purpose of this channel will be to share accounts and experiences with various substances so that the viewers can gain an insight as to what those experiences are like. I also hope that these experiences will reduce self-harm and substance abuse, as I do not endorse, condone or encourage the abuse of any illicit substance, drug or medication. I will credit the authors in the description below, and I also upload new trip reports on Sunday and Wednesday every week, so if you do happen to enjoy the content, please consider subscribing. I have always been fascinated by psychoactive drugs, and I've experienced with a wide variety of substances. Lately, my attention has been driven to SALVIA divinorum. I've done my research on this plant, and I've read through a great number of experience reports online, and after nearly a year of toying with the idea, I finally decided that the time was right for a direct experience. I ordered 1 gram of regular strength enhanced leaf from what I concluded was probably the most reputable source available on the internet. My order arrived promptly, but because it was still early in the week, I decided to wait until the long Labour Day weekend before doing my experimentation. Being aware of the importance of set and setting in any psychedelic experience, I was conscious of having been rather stressed out for the last couple of weeks. Work had been unusually busy. At home, I was engaged in several significant repairs to my old house. All of this, in conjunction with trying to keep up with my normal routines, was running me ragged. So Saturday finally rolled around. I was still feeling run down and could barely get off the couch until evening approached. I took another shower, drank some fruit juice and was feeling invigorated. Ready to enjoy my evening, I drove downtown, bought a glass pipe at the local head shop, picked up a pizza and headed back home. Since I wasn't too sure how I'd feel after my upcoming Salvia experience, I first made sure to take care of any evening chores before settling in. After everything had been taken care of, and after a couple of slices of pizza, I was feeling calm, confident and ready for whatever awaited me. So, without any hesitation, I began my ritual. I got on my knees and I said a prayer to my God. I asked for continuing guidance and to be granted knowledge and wisdom from my experience. It seemed important thus to reaffirm the purity of my intent. I completed my preparation by lighting a sage incense bundle and wafting the smoke around the living room. Finally, I settled back into the couch and began to prepare for the leaf. Earlier in the day, I had been reading a Salvia divinorum fac. I knew that a sitter was strongly recommended, especially for an inexperienced user, but I had made the decision to forego this precaution. This was mainly because I no longer run in circles where such experimentation is condoned, so I have become somewhat a lone wolf in these endeavours. In any case, I decided that my dog would be a sufficient sitter, friendly, familiar and well-grounded. As I will relate further on, this turned out to be a mistake. As I prepared the pipe, I reflected on my expectations. Admittedly, I was going into this experience a complete sceptic. The wide range of experience reports I had read caused me to entertain the possibility that Salvia might not be psychoactive at all, and that instead, the effects might be the result of some kind of bizarre placebo effect, or at best, an enhanced head rush caused by hyperventilating the smoke. On the other hand, there were far too many compelling reports of amazing encounters with this plant for me to dismiss its potential effects. So in other words, I was prepared for failure, yet at the same time ready for success. Most of my doubts had been centred on the number of reports describing little or no effect, and having to make several attempts to achieve a modest breakthrough experience, but I can state unequivocally that nothing could have prepared me for what was to come. I fully expected having to take several hits to achieve my results, so I folded up 3 pieces of stiff paper, and into each crease I poured a good hit of leaf. By the way, I have not smoked marijuana for over 12 years, so I wasn't sure how my lungs would react to the smoke. I took one of the papers and poured it into the bowl of my pipe. I noted the time as around 8:30 in the evening. I picked up and lit my lighter. I put the pipe to my lips and inhaled deeply. I did a long check after pulling out 3/4 of the bowl. It felt smooth, so I reapplied the lighter, sucked in the rest and held it. Okay, my inner voice told me to put the pipe and the lighter on the table now. As my hands moved towards the table, it seemed I could no longer feel them. Then I noticed what I can only describe as a slight hiccup in my visual field. At that point, I was no longer certain that I had succeeded in placing my tools back on the coffee table. But my last conscious memory was of leaning back into the couch. I felt a vague sensation of exhaling smoke. Before my head hit the cushion, I was gone. And I mean gone. There are no words to describe what followed. The only way I can even begin to describe is that it had the sense of being catapulted head over heels into some kind of warp in space or time. I became aware of strange spiral arches that looked a lot like double helix DNA strands. The coil seemed to be compressed and colourful, moving trains and buses. I heard somebody's voice. I cannot recollect what it said. There was also the presence of my mother. Had I become her? Because it felt as though I was no longer me. All I can say with any real certainty is that I had completely lost any sense of myself in ordinary reality. I was completely disconnected from any physical body and had travelled to God knows where. Despite the overpowering sense that I had travelled backwards in time, my first conscious thought was an astonished, "Holy shit, I've been blown into next Tuesday." This absurd phrase seemed to repeat itself over and over. I became dimly conscious of my surroundings after what seemed like a few moments later, and then I found myself around 10 feet from my couch in the hallway. Whether I was standing or lying on the floor, I cannot tell. I began to feel frightened and confused. The panic thought that I might not ever return fitted through in my mind. That was the madness, and that's what it felt like. When I started to come back, the realisation that the salvia had actually worked began to dawn on me. I had to remind myself that the effects were supposed to pass quickly. It was then that I found myself facing my kitchen. The walls and floor were skewed in unnatural angles. All I could do was exclaim out loud, "My God, there's my kitchen." The realisation was both astonishing and a profound relief. Here was a reality that I could understand. I remember turning around and seeing my dog still lying on the floor. I shouted a similar exclamation, "My God, there's my dog." This, turning back and forth between the kitchen and the dog, seemed to oscillate back and forth several times. Between each turn, I was zapped back into salvia land and completely lost touch with whom or where I was. It was during one of those oscillations that I remembered I had been hitting on a pipe. I then became quite anxious that a still burning coal may have spilled out of the pipe and caught something on fire. This anxiety was amplified when I realised that if that were the case, I was in no shape to take any action to put out the fire. The thought of having to call the fire department under these circumstances shot into my brain. It seemed so absurd that I began to laugh hysterically. Meanwhile, each period of oscillation into normal reality began to last longer than the associated period into salvia. I managed to grope my way back to the coffee table through a visual field still consisting of impossible angles, and to my relief, I saw that the pipe was indeed still on the table and nothing seemed to have spilled out and caught fire. That is when the episode with the dog occurred. Apparently, my actions had aroused him into a playful mood and he started to jump up on me. I lost it again, and when I came back, we were on the floor wrestling with each other, chasing each other in an infinite circle. At some point, I began to fear that I was losing control over my dog. I just wanted it to stop. I finally managed to command him to go and lay down. The oscillations were beginning to subside and I lay back on the couch. When I was finally able to look at and comprehend the clock, I saw that less than 15 minutes had elapsed. The time was now 8:45 p.m. I was now in a euphoric state. I found myself laughing in utter disbelief at what had just transpired. This can't have been real, I would think. Then I would laugh again when I realised that it had all been too real. The next 10 minutes or so just zipped by. Close to 9 p.m, I attempted to take notes on everything that had happened so far. That's when my dog started to freak me out again. He was cowering and barking at something in the middle of the living room. I've not seen him act timid towards people, so his behaviour was extremely baffling. I began to entertain paranoid thoughts. Maybe my shouting during the trip had been heard by people outside and they were trying to look in and skulk around. I even considered the possibility that I was hallucinating the whole thing. But I was together enough at this point to check the basement and look outside, and I found nothing out of the ordinary, so my dog finally calmed down. I did not like the creepy feeling that caused. I finished my notes and reclined back on the couch, trying to relax, recover and further collect my thoughts. I noted that it was already 9:30 p.m. Where had the last half hour gone? I was back at baseline with no ill effects, and after watching TV for a while, I began to feel drowsy. Falling asleep was no problem. I recall vivid and strange dreams near morning, but that is ordinary for me, and I cannot attribute it to any salvia or its after effects. On Siebert's salvia scale, this was definitely a level 5 immaterial experience. It was overwhelming for the first time. I did not expect a single hit of regular strength enhanced leaf to produce such a transformation. I am no longer a skeptic. Salvia Divinorum is for real. Its effects are powerful and profound. It's unlike anything I've ever done, and I do believe that it might belong in a class of its own. Unlike mushrooms or LSD, no cosmic knowledge was revealed to me, nor did I transcend language or ego. There were no stages or levels to go through. However, I did learn respect for this plant. It confronted me with one of my weak points, that is, my inability to completely let go. Last night, the goddess was dominant. I feel I probably would have gained more from this experience had I not had to worry about fire and my dog. A sitter might have alleviated this concern. Also, next time there will be no dog present. That was an unnecessary and unfortunate distraction. I will also lessen the dose. I'm really looking forward to my next encounter. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed listening to this experience. If you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing. If you would like me to upload a particular drug experience, please let me know in the comments below. Above all, please be safe, be responsible, and be well.